Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Cara Lynn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. With the holidays right around the corner, now is the time to start thinking of the perfect gifts to buy your loved ones. Don't miss the Just Ingredients early Black Friday sale on November 23rd and 24th. The entire website will be 20% off. A sale this big only comes twice a year. Stock up on your favorite face serum or deodorant for yourself, gift a collection set of beauty products to your mom, or surprise your husband with my brand new chocolate peppermint protein powder. All products will be in stock, including protein powder, my new hot chocolate packed with superfoods, and my limited edition candy cane Christmas products. Nothing says happy holidays like a gift from Just Ingredients. This is the only big sale for the rest of the year, so don't miss out. Remember, November 23rd and 24th, the entire website will be 20% off. Shop the sale at www.justingredients.us. From young ages, both Marco and Aubrey knew they wanted to be chefs. They were greatly influenced by their childhoods. Marco's mother was a great home cook, and his father, a chef, and owned and operated Bruno's Old World Italian Deli in Los Angeles for many years. After graduating high school, he immediately entered culinary school, eager to build on his knowledge and fast-track him into professional kitchens. Since then, he has cooked for 3 presidents of the United States, world leaders, world athletes, local leaders, and many celebrities. Aubrey grew up in the Pacific Northwest, where she would go crabbing during the summers and spend weekends at Pike Place Market. Driven by passion, she graduated from the Culinary Arts Institute of UVU. Aubrey's had the opportunity to cook for many professional athletes, musicians, C-level executives, local politicians, and surgeons. You guys, I am so excited to have Aubrey and Marco here. They are famous chefs, professional chefs. I met them at an Evolve retreat that I was speaking at, and they were there cooking the most amazing food. And then I started chit-chatting with them, and I was like, you guys, I need you on my podcast. So thank you for being here, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having us. We're excited to be here, too.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. And it was great to hear you speak at that event.
Well, thank you. That was a fun event. Okay, so tell my followers a little bit about yourselves, your background, and how you actually became professional chefs, and maybe why.
So I grew up in the industry. My father ran restaurants when I was a kid in LA. And honestly, it's all I've ever wanted to do. It's all I've ever known. And I've had an opportunity to kind of do a lot of different caveats in the business, from catering to private chefing to restaurant industry to direct-to-consumer products that help people cook better at home. Aubrey took a similar route, but was a single mom, went to culinary school. So she's the educated one.
I went to UVU's culinary. I was in their program, graduated from there. It was fantastic. I loved it. But I think that when you know you love to cook, you usually know from a young age. So I think for both of us, we at least started cooking at home when we were like 13, 14. And we have also translated that with our kids, teaching them how to cook early. Which we think is really important. But we started young, and then you just learn as you go.
I will admit my cooking skills improved once I met Aubrey. So 9 years ago we met, and we kind of brought our worlds together and started a business. And business has just been incredible since we met. And it's fun because she's so technical in cooking, and I bring kind of a freelance mentality.
He goes rogue. I try to bring the rules.
Oh, that's awesome. If you guys follow them on Instagram, it's actually really cool to see what they are making for other people. And then you guys also display it so beautifully. I'm like, wow, that's where I want private lessons, to learn how to display it like that.
Well, I feel like you eat with your eyes before you even taste it. So it's so important. Even like, I mean, we have a restaurant, and I take great pride in like all of my staff being very put together, and cleanliness is very important. And I feel like it starts with you as an individual, but then translates into the way you present your food, which then in turn, I truly believe makes the food taste better. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually haven't really thought of that before, that you eat with your eyes beforehand. That's sort of a cool thought. Sometimes I just throw it on the table. Maybe I should try making it look a little nicer. Maybe my kids would eat it better if I did that.
It's a unique art form because unlike other art, you eat it, so you taste it, but you visualize it and you smell it. So you're taking in so many different qualities. So anyway, that's why I love it.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so one thing that really intrigued me when I met you guys at the retreat was that you don't cook with sugar. Like you weren't using sugar in your meals and they tasted amazing. So I actually want to ask you about this. So did you just learn how to cook with all whole foods like at an early age? Why don't you put sugar in it? Oh, I have so many questions because I also want to know what you use instead of sugar. What type of sweeteners do you use? Do you use real food?
So for us, okay, so people are always like, how can you trust a skinny chef? Like, da, da, da. And we get this all the time. But health is extremely important to us. And so I feel like we've both kind of done our own research. I took nutrition in school, but you don't really learn everything there, I wouldn't say. But translating that into cooking has been huge for us because we believe in living a healthy lifestyle. And I used to teach cooking classes, so I would do a ton of research, but then also teach about what kind of ingredients to use, how to use them, and just how to live a more balanced life in the kitchen. So I feel like we usually try to use, if we're going to use a sweetener, we'll use natural ones like honey, fruit. We will do, if we need like a sugar substitute, we use monk fruit sweetener more often than not.
I think people don't necessarily realize that there is so much sugar naturally
in everything. It's
and in fruits, there's ways. Yeah. So like with our dressings, typically we use honey or agave or some kind of a natural sweetener, even just fresh raspberries. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're cooking based on the seasons, I think that's a trend that chefs or industry people use, but it's not a trend. We're doing that because the ingredients are at their peak, which means the sugars are at their greatest level. And, the peach actually tastes like a peach. So we try to avoid not using the products that are in season, which allows us to cook without sugar because those natural flavors are coming through.
Yeah. And you can do that too is one thing because obviously food is really, now when you go to the grocery store, it's year round here. Everything is shipped in. But if you try to cook more locally, then you can use both that. You can use a local ingredient that is fresh and in season. And so it's kind of a combination, I feel like, of both. But also just don't add it. Like everything doesn't need sugar at all. So even like vinaigrettes, we tend to go more savory, or if it's going to be a citrus vinaigrette, and the lemons are a little bit too tart, then you can add an orange, and that's going to add some sweetness instead of adding honey or monk fruit sweetener or something like that. So it just really is like, just cut it down. It's not worth it. You don't need it.
One of the biggest issues we have with the current offering in the food industry is that everyone adds sugar. So people think, okay, I'm making a good choice. I'm going out and I'm buying a salad. But what they don't realize is that dressing is actually probably worse than getting the hamburger and French fries.
True.
And it's honestly, and I'm not trying to insult anyone else's cooking, but it's because they don't understand how to balance ingredients without sugar. So sugar's there to balance the fat and acid in the recipe. And so with dressings, it's really easy to balance that by just adding white sugar. If you're technically sound in how to balance those flavors, the citrus, so you could use an orange or a lemon to balance with the oil and the fat in the dressing, then you don't need to add those sugars to kind of balance that flavor. But
which also brings us to oils. And we're super particular about what we cook with, not only for when we're catering and cooking for people, but on a daily basis at home. We really only use like olive oil. I mean, is our number one. We use avocado
oil.
Yeah. So typically so the seed oils, we stay away from those, but
as you can tell, she's the more healthy cooker. I grew up in the restaurant, so it's tough because you're doing volume. And so I know that restaurants have to cut corners to try and keep up. But if you just make a stand to not do that, the customer has a better experience. You feel better after you eat. So anyway.
And even when you're pan frying, like a lot of oils, like the the light olive oil and the avocado oil, you can use that when you're cooking to bring up that like high heat where it's still gonna work as if you were to use like a canola. Like it can get that hot and still pan fry really well. So it's just like switching those things out, which we do often. And I think that people, once they do it, they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Because it's actually that easy. It's just picking something else on the shelf.
I love that you guys cook with the better oils. I tell people all the time, like, that should be one of your first switches. Just get rid of your canola and vegetable oil and use the avocado. You can't even tell a difference.
So at all. Yeah, even in baking.
Yeah.
It totally works.
Yeah, I love that you guys cook that way and cater that way. It's amazing. But I also love the idea of just cutting out the sugar. So you've inspired me for salad dressings. I'm going to go home and like try some of mine and get the sugar out of it and put an orange in instead and see how it goes. But let's talk about sugar with baking. Do you have a favorite replacement that you use when baking?
Honestly, the one that I feel like works the best is the monk fruit sweetener, granulated one that you can kind of find everywhere nowadays, which is nice. Like there's products out there that are available. We do, if I'm going to make a muffin or something, I'll do applesauce, some basic, simple ones like that, or like smashed banana. That works really well.
I think anyone who's experienced our cooking either at an event or at our restaurant, when it comes to dessert, we also play in the portion control space, because it is difficult to give that super sweet dessert, which we actually both don't love super sweet desserts. We tend to lean to the savory, which really just means we're balancing the sugar with salt or some other
like bitter, like chocolate
flavor
or whatever.
But when we're serving desserts, we do tend to portion them much smaller. So at the end of a meal, you don't feel super heavy or weighed down.
Which then leads us to like, with cooking, you have to have in eating like moderation. Like it's okay. I feel like if you're going to have something sweet once in a while, obviously you don't want sugar in everything that you're going to have. But if you're going to end with a sweet treat, it's not the end of the world if you use a real like natural raw sugar. Just keep your portion smaller. And I feel like that's how we live in general anyway.
Well, I love when I ate at the retreat with you guys because I had this nice healthy dinner and then the dessert it's just like a little mini dessert. I love that it just gives a little sweet ending to a healthy meal.
This style of cooking has kind of always been natural to us, but when we started our business at Lake Powell about 6 years ago, it dawned on us that, so our business there, we're spending multiple days with the same client on a mega boat, if you don't know about Lake Powell. And so it's multiple meals, and these clients are, kind of on the upper echelon. So they're very aware of what they're eating. And when you're feeding them on a daily basis for multiple days, you really start to understand how important it is to control every ingredient that's going into the cooking. And luckily, I feel like we have found a balance where our clients love it. They, after 3 days with us, they're like, I don't
feel good.
Yeah, I don't feel sick. I don't feel weighed down. And it is 100%. There's no magic. We're not like changing the world, reinventing the wheel. It's just that we understand exactly the ingredients that we're putting into each thing, and we're balancing them only to what we absolutely need in there. And it reflects in how you feel after you eat.
Well, and you're cooking with whole foods and nourishing foods the whole time. I remember you saying at the retreat, because you were feeding these athletic women good breakfast, a good lunch, a good dinner, and some of these women were worried about how much food they were eating, and you guys were saying, like, what'd you tell them?
Well, it's okay. As long as you're choosing your portions, you can eat like this. I mean, we eat like this every day.
Because it's whole foods.
Yeah, you guys were teaching like it's whole foods. It's going to nourish your guys' body. You're not going to gain weight from this. This is what your body needs for fuel. So I loved that.
No scary ingredients, no scary oils and stuff.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about Lake Powell. If you guys follow them on Instagram, it's sort of fun to see these amazing, huge houseboats that they are on cooking for these people. But I'm curious, do you cook with all food groups like meat, dairy, grains, or not necessarily?
So yes, we cook with everything. I feel like we will have some people that have some dietary restrictions. And in that case, we will accommodate them in a way, like, let's say they're like for dairy, for instance, we just won't put dairy in whatever it is or put it on the side or make them something separate and pull it out. That's one of those things that's really easy to do. They're just small tweaks that we can do, but we do cook with grains and protein always. We just offer a wide variety of stuff so people can choose. So every meal is going to have a vegetable, it's going to have a salad, it'll have a fruit, and it'll have a main protein or two. It gives them variety and opportunity to choose what they want, but it's everything. I
think Lake Powell too gives us an opportunity to really feel what it's like to be a mom or a dad who cooks at home. It's challenging to come up with a creative meal every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is what we do at Lake Powell. Because when we're not at Lake Powell, it's, you do an event 1 month or a couple events a month, and you can either use the same menu or you can base it on seasonality. When we're cooking at Lake Powell, it's the same client every day for multiple days. So you really get to understand how hard it is for somebody who cooks for their family every night. And what we've tended to do that makes it fun and exciting is you pick like a flavor profile. So like Greek, and we design a lunch around Greek, and then dinner is an Italian themed dinner. And so when we do have the opportunity to talk to people about cooking at home, we encourage them to expand their horizons and just pick a flavor profile and then pick the ingredients that fall in that category. And then you could come up with a grain salad, a green salad, a chicken, because you can cook chicken a million different ways as long as you're staying in those categories, and your family then wouldn't get bored having chicken every night.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know lots of people that will do like Mexican one night, Italian the next night, American the next night, something like that. I should be better at that. That would be a good variety for my kids.
You're a busy woman, so the fact that you can get any meal out there is hats off to you.
Well, I actually have a method, but mine's more like fish one night, chicken one night, beef one night, more plant-based one night. So I am trying to rotate them. I just don't do more themed like that.
Will also help because when you're going to the grocery store and you're buying ingredients, I mean, we tend to shop at like a Costco, and I know you shop at Costco from time to time, but when you buy chicken at Costco, you're stuck with like a ton of chicken. So that's why I think and we have a family of 4 children. So, I mean, it takes a couple days to get through it. So if you're mixing those up, you can use the same ingredients before you have to freeze them or figure out something else to do with them.
A few different ways.
Yeah.
Saves you money that way too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious, did you learn how to cook with whole foods in culinary school, or is this something you had to learn on your own?
We definitely cooked with whole foods. Everything we made was from scratch, but the actual, I guess, like the nitty gritty of what is good and what isn't came after. I've done a lot of research just because it's really important to me.
So people that are listening to this, that are like, oh, I just don't even know where to start, or I can't cook this way. They can, right? They can learn it on their own. What are some tips for them?
I loved what you said at the retreat. Like, don't be overwhelmed. Just pick one thing and fix that one thing. I think you said in your home, and then in your body,
move on to the next, like
the products that you put on your body. Like, it is super overwhelming to try and think, oh, I'm going to cook 4 days a week. Like, that's just not real. Or I'm going to change all my ingredients over to whole foods right away.
I feel like the key thing though is to keep it simple, and using whole ingredients does that. But really, it's like let's say I'm going to make a meal. I'm going to choose one protein. Let's say that it's salmon. I'm going to choose one green, maybe it's arugula, and another vegetable that I'm going to cook. So let's say it's like green beans. It's like you only need to choose 3 or 4 things per plate, and just keep it really, really simple and fresh. And you're not going to, as long as it's whole and fresh and not coming from a can or a box, I feel like you're already winning. So keeping it simple, number 1, have it balanced, add color, and the technique needs to just be like, I'm in a pan, saute this really fast. That's the other thing is, like a lot of us don't have a ton of time to put into these dinners for our families or whatever. So anything that I can do on the stovetop or throw on a sheet pan and throw it in the oven to roast, that's what we're going to do to make it like easiest.
When Aubrey says add colors, she's meaning like vegetables. Like when we go to the grocery store, we're looking for bright, flavorful ingredients, and that's where the colors are coming from in the cooking. And again, it goes back to how we opened this conversation, when you eat with your eyes. And so even when we're cooking for the kids, if it's all one tone, it's very boring. I mean, rice, gravy, and beef, like it's just not pleasing to the eye to even serving your kids. And so adding some colors from vegetables or fruits will increase the desire to want to eat that meal.
Yeah. And you don't have to cook everything. Some things can be raw. So I really love throwing some greens that are tossed in olive oil and maybe some lemon or something over, like on top of chicken, on top of beef, on top of fish. Like a light salad adds so much texture, flavor, and brightness that it really like can pull a meal together. But then you're eating something raw, and then you have a vegetable that is cooked and your protein that's cooked. So it is kind of that balance that we're looking for, but simple. Like, don't let it overwhelm you. Like you can make dinner in 15, 20 minutes if you really stick to only a few ingredients and simple techniques. I hope people can learn.
I love that. I love hearing that from professional chefs, because I have to tell you, when I started on my health journey, I was like, oh my gosh, I looked at Pinterest and saw all these amazing, elaborate, like kale bowls. And I was like, I don't even know where to like buy that stuff or how to even begin with that. And so I first started with, okay, I don't think I even eat vegetables at my meals, so I'll add carrots today. I'll add broccoli today. Like, that's how simple it started. Then once I got good with that, then I moved on with, okay, well, I know how to make spaghetti, so let me just add some veggies into my spaghetti. Okay, I know how to make sloppy joes. Let me throw some veggies into my sloppy joes. So it is simple, but like Pinterest and social media and some of these things make it look like it has to be this elaborate, huge ordeal, when in reality, it really doesn't.
It doesn't.
I love how when following you on social media, you also don't necessarily push your followers to a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods where there's a more variety, but it's also more expensive. There are options in your local grocery store for good ingredients. And even to the point when we're talking about Whole Foods, you can kind of target when Smith's gets new product, and we shop on those days. Harmon's does the same thing. So I know when the new product's coming in, and that's when we choose to do our grocery shopping. Costco, I'll give you a little tip. Sundays at Costco is when they bring all the fresh fish in for the week.
Oh, really?
So we go and get all our fish on Sundays at Costco because...
And Harmon's does every 3 days.
Yeah. So there's ways to navigate picking whole food products.
Oh, I never knew that. That's actually a good tip to know. Thank you. I love that you guys just said roast your veggies as an easy way to do that. That is a really simple, easy way. And then once you roast them, you can serve them that way or throw them into something, right?
Yep.
Yes.
You can also turn them into a soup. So like leftover roasted vegetables from the dinner before, you could put them in a blender, add some chicken stock or bone broth, and then you make a really good soup and you cross-utilize ingredients.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, I get this question all the time, though, like almost on a daily basis. My followers will say, yeah, but I have picky kids. So how do I get my picky kids to eat these veggies?
We have that same problem. I think it's universal that some kids are just really picky, but it is finding what they will eat. And so it's giving them variety, trying to have them, you create meals and have them try it no matter, even if they don't want it. We're always like, you have to at least taste it. And we do that over and over and over again until eventually they like it. Sometimes they will never like a specific vegetable, but if you keep trying and are persistent over time, I think that you can get a picky eater to be very much less picky.
I actually think there's kind of a secret, and we do it without even thinking about it, but we both grew up in homes where we cooked all the time. Our mom and dad cooked. We were in the kitchen. That's where our love first came from. Our oldest daughter is not picky at all. She actually wants to be a chef. She's always loved cooking, but our other 3 kids have always kind of been picky eaters. And this is the secret. So I believe kids just think it's a foreign ingredient and they don't understand what it is. So we bring them in the kitchen and cook with us. So let's just take asparagus, for example. I think Bruno didn't know what asparagus was. And so when it shows up on his plate, it's like foreign, it's weird. But getting them in the kitchen and cooking with us, one, I think is like, it's one of the greatest memories I have from my childhood. And we're trying to do that with our kids. But then it also helps kids understand what the ingredient is. And then they don't think like, it's not a taste thing for them. It's just, they don't know what a tomato is. And it looks weird. It's got ooey gooey and seeds. But then, at least with our kids, they've kind of like gotten over the phobia by touching it, feeling it, cooking it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that definitely helps. You can't do that every night, obviously, or else it would take like 2 hours to make dinner. But sometimes bringing them in or even if it's just teaching them how to carefully use a knife, prepping them is also helpful. But showing them variety, don't you feel like, and then having them taste it. We're kind of sticklers. We're like, you have to taste it. Even if you don't like it, you have to.
Have to at least try it.
Yeah, you have to at least try it. And then find out what they do love. I feel like it's really important. And then keep giving them that just so they get
something.
Okay. Yeah. Because even if they won't like something else, you can find something.
Yeah, absolutely.
In each meal. We make sure that there's a vegetable, at least one vegetable in each meal too.
That's what I do. And that's consistency. And the consistency, I think, helps them because they know, my kids know every dinner there's going to be a vegetable. And they may love it or they may not. So I like the consistency. And then also, I love what Marco just said about getting to know what vegetable they're eating. I hadn't ever thought of that, but I actually think that's really true because the other day, my daughter was helping me make asparagus. And she was squeezing lemon over it. And then she was putting some lemon pepper on it. And then she put some butter. And she was like, oh, this actually might be really good with the butter and the lemon. And I was like, yeah, it might be. And so then when it came out of the oven, she actually wanted to try it because she had just made it and was curious to see what it tasted like. So I think you hit that on the spot, Marco. And I hadn't ever thought of that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really easy. And I know we're all time crunched for a million things, but taking 3 seconds and introducing that, I think it does make an impact.
Well, and I'll tell you my little tip. You were saying it takes longer to cook with kids in the kitchen, and it does when they're younger. But now that mine are older, I have to have them help me because I've got like 30 minutes and we've got to get it out in 30 minutes. And so now that they're older, they're great chefs and they just help me. And so work through the pain as little kids because it pays off when they're older. Okay, so we're talking about cooking with our kids, having them help in the kitchen, having large families. Let's talk about budget. I always have people tell me, oh, it's so expensive to cook with whole foods. What do you guys say to those that are trying to cook on a budget?
Okay, well, first, I truly don't think that it is. I mean, I really feel like a packaged ingredient, when you're buying more of those, is actually more expensive, like a pre-made food. And it kind of also comes down to simplifying your menus. So you're not buying 50 ingredients for one thing, you're buying 3 or 4. So really it is cost effective. And when you buy more in bulk, that is huge and helpful. And also knowing what store you like to get what product. So because it's going to be more expensive if you go to a Harmon's and you buy your butter there. If you go to Costco and buy the Kerrygold butter, you're going to get more for your money, 100%. So just kind of making those choices of what store to go to get the best price. And we are super conscious of that with our catering company and also for our home life. So it's kind of learning where to get the best product for the best price.
I think when it comes to fruit and produce, you gotta just stay with what's in season. And although it's always available, the price will fluctuate. So being aware of those prices. So when I say shop seasonally, it's based on prices, because the lower the price means it's more available. So that's a seasonal product. And then when it comes to protein, I think what people don't realize is, for us, we go to Costco and buy in bulk, or with the restaurant industry, you can buy through a national provider. And we'll just take chicken, for example, from Costco. We buy that pack that has like 6 or 7 little pouches and it has chicken. Those chicken are humongous. So what we actually do is open it up on the first day and we portion it out. So I'll take each chicken and cut it in half. And so you actually get 4 pieces out of there. And then we divide that out per meal We'll freeze it, label it, bag it. But then you could also do this with like the pork shoulders at Costco. So we'll buy the 2 big pork shoulders. Maybe we smoke one on the Traeger and we pull it and we put it in the fridge, half of it in the fridge, and use it for a meal. So I think it just takes planning, which sounds a little overwhelming. But if you take 3 seconds, you make a shopping list, which we actually do like that.
Yeah.
And we lay out where, okay, we're going to Harmon's for these items. We're going to Costco for these items. We're going to Smith's for these items. People ask us like all the time, is there some secret grocery store that you guys know? We're shopping exactly where you guys shop as private chefs.
Well, I love hearing from professional chefs that no, it doesn't cost more to eat healthy. It just takes a little planning. And that's what I tell people. It takes planning on knowing what ingredients you need to buy for what meals you're making. And then, like you said, splitting things up and portioning things out. Use that time to plan accordingly to save you money. Let's talk about the holidays since they're coming up. What tips do you have for people for cooking during the holidays?
I think this is one of the toughest skills to have, but it just comes with repetition and cooking all the time, but it's timing. So in the restaurant industry, everything we do is about timing. And so when we talk to people about the holidays, it's really one of the only times of the year where a lot is riding on this meal, and you got friends and family coming over. And so when we teach cooking classes around the holiday menus like Christmas or Thanksgiving, we try to talk to people about timing. So look at your menu in a whole and choose the items that you could potentially do ahead. So we'll just use Thanksgiving because it's right around the corner, but like cranberry sauce could be done 2 days before, and it could be sat aside, dressing for your salad, maybe even toasting some of the nuts or almond, the ingredients on the salad. So you have it all kind of, they call it mise en place in the restaurant industry. Mise en place your ingredients.
So everything in its place and your prep ahead. But also this is, I feel like, the time where you can make those swaps, because traditionally people make that like green bean salad with like canned mushroom soup and stuff. So for us, what we do is we get like fresh shallots and butter, which we'll use. We definitely prefer the Kerrygold Irish butter, and saute those maybe with a little chicken stock or white wine, and then throw that in a pan, toss it with our green beans, versus doing like a cream-based canned soup, which is honestly terrible for you. So it is like learning those little swaps for your holiday meal. Taking the tradition, because we love tradition. We come from very traditional backgrounds. So you still want those flavors. You just want to enhance them and make them healthier. So we do that with cranberry sauce. We use orange juice because cranberries are so tart. So, and vanilla in that. And we'll even add like Granny Smith apple and pineapple. That's our favorite version of like a little relish of a cranberry sauce, which is also very dessert-y to me. But so it's just those little swaps, I feel like.
Just don't overwhelm yourself. The day is like so much going on. There's family coming over. Kids are doing this and that. So we just
prepare and plan.
Just think out what you want to do. And obviously we delegate in our family because everyone in our family cooks, but choose the things that need to be done the day of. And then those you can't change. And then do the stuff ahead of time you can. And I honestly would leave like 3 items day of, which is like mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Obviously cook the turkey and make gravy. But everything else we try to do ahead of time, because you just don't want to be stressed on those big holidays.
Yeah. Timing is key, because I always get stuck with the turkey, the stuffing, and the rolls. All 3 I want warm. And so I'm like, how do I get all 3 of these out of the oven at the same time? So timing is key.
So if you do the stuffing like ahead, you could do all the bread or whatever you're going to do as far as the stuffing. And then I leave the bone stock or beef, whatever liquid you're going to add, to the day of. So that could be sitting in the fridge. You pour that liquid over and you throw that in the oven, and you could cook that ahead of time, then hold it and then heat it up right before service. So there are, I mean, it's hard. We do it for a career. And so there are tricks to the trade, but I think just, again, simplifying it and try to time it so that you're enjoying that day as well.
It just takes some planning is what it takes.
Exactly.
And I love that you guys said that it's a good time to just make little swaps and make some of your favorite meals healthier. I'm all about telling people, like, you don't have to restrict that meal and like never have your favorite traditional meal again. Let's just make it with better choice ingredients. And I have a prime example because my kid's grandma loves to make this fruit salad. Well, it has Cool Whip in it, which I just don't like Cool Whip. So
our family has those.
So I make it for my kids with a better choice ingredient. We do all the fruit and we just put some real cream in it and whip that cream. And that's just a better choice. But my kids still get to have their favorite salad from grandma. It's just done a little bit better. So
yeah, that's perfect. Exactly.
Okay, you guys just came out with a new cookbook all about charcuterie boards. So I am terrible at charcuterie boards. Let's just say that. So give some tips for beginners of where to start with charcuterie boards.
I would say choose your fresh ingredients, so which is typically like grapes, any sort of fruit, apples, nuts, something like that. So you want to do your fresh, and then texture, which is something like crunchy. So that would be like your nuts or whatever. And then when you're pairing your cheeses and meats, we like to choose something creamy, something a little bit more that has like a bite, like a goat cheese or like a blue, something like that. So it is kind of pairing your flavors, and then something that's mild, like that's a crowd pleaser, which is typically a white cheddar. And there's different varieties of that. Yeah, so there's British white cheddars, there's Irish white cheddars, and then there's English. So all any three of those, and then there's local Utah ones, which are the beehives. So we usually grab one of those, something creamy, and then something with a bite. So 3 cheeses to give variety, and then also like 2 meats typically, would you say? 2 different sorts of salumi, which we prefer criminally, locally, just because they're amazing. We think it's the best salami around that we can get, but there are also other great ones, and prosciuttos, which are nice and like salty.
Not to do a product plug, because I'm honestly not trying to do a product plug, but we waited to do a book when it felt right for us, and charcuterie's always been a part of our lives. So that's why the topic felt right. But then it's only $12. We chose to do a book that was affordable for everyone because we believe that everyone should be able to cook. And then the third thing is we laid the book out very different than traditional cookbooks. So there are some recipes in the back of the book, but the majority of the book is actually picture guides to how to build a charcuterie. So actually how we do it, from starting in the center to building height to all the things Aubrey just spoke about, the variety on the boards. The book is there to guide you through. And whenever we just got done talking about the holidays, whenever I'm in the weeds, is what you call it in the restaurant, meaning you're like, the turkey's not done yet and people are hungry, a charcuterie board saves the day. So we always have one in the fridge ready to go. And you pull it out, you add a few things to it, and then people are 100% thrilled. Yeah. Even if the turkey takes another hour.
Okay, so I need your book because I'm not creative. And those things, when I see them on Pinterest, I'm like, you have to be creative to make those boards. So I'm going to get your book and just open it up to the pictures and follow along. But I love the idea, though, that I could do a charcuterie board a couple days before and not worry about that on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving Day, and feed that to my kids when they are all whining that they are so hungry that they're going to like die because they're so hungry. We've all heard that.
They need a snack.
I grew up with 4 other brothers, so there's 5 boys. And I think many, many times charcuterie saved my mom's life on holidays. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you also have a couple restaurants. So tell my listeners about your restaurants and where they are.
So the restaurants, it's just such an interesting time in the restaurant industry, and staffing is hard and trying to keep up, but we love the industry. We always have kind of evolved around the restaurant industry here in Utah, but we felt like it was time to elevate it. So we launched a brand called Nino Viejo, which is our Latin concept. So Aubrey has Latin heritage from Spain. And so it isn't a Mexican restaurant. It's truly a Latin inspired restaurant where you can see ingredients from all over Latin culture. And then growing up in San Diego, obviously there is an influence on the menu from Mexican cuisine. So we love it. It's been super successful. It's in Farmington at Station Park. And then we have 2 other restaurants in the works. We always have stuff going on. And so it's really managing time and focus. And so right now the book is our major focus, but the salt. So that was actually something I was wanting
Yeah, I
to
was just going to ask you about the salt, because I was going to tell my listeners they have the book, a restaurant, and now your new salt that you came out with.
So I think the salt goes back to the conversation about oils. So we tell people, if you only change 2 things in your cooking after listening to this, change the oil you're using and change the salt you're using.
And sugar.
Well, yeah.
3 things.
Three things.
Try to pull sugar out.
Yeah.
But when you're cooking with whole foods, it is really hard to now get flavor. Like if you're not a professional chef, a lot of people are like, well, now I don't know how to get it to taste good.
It's just salt. It's so easy. A good quality salt will change your life.
100%. So get rid of the iodized baking salt that our parents use. It's just terrible for you. So replace it with a nice either sea salt or kosher salt or
Himalayan salt,
or AM
natural.
Niccoli salt.
Redmond real salt is fantastic with the minerals, the natural minerals in it. So we definitely replace your salt. But our salt is great because it's an all-purpose blend. So it has tons of herbs and spices in it. There's no sugar. There's no MSGs. There's no preservatives at all. There's no like the caking agent that they put in to make it not cake. So you do want to use it, but it will last a very long time.
Well, and I love that it has the herbs and seasonings in it, so that I don't have to worry about salting my food plus trying to figure out what herbs and spices to use. It's all just in there together.
Exactly.
So when we developed the product, we just saw a void in the space of something that could help people cook vegetables. And honestly, it was that simple. Or make avocado toast taste better. It was so popular.
Your scrambled eggs taste better. Literally, it can go on everything.
So it's a 1 ingredient that replaces like 15 other herbs and spices in your cabinet, all in one. And so honestly, we love the product, but we get so many people, messaging us like, I feel like I can cook now. Like I feel like and it's just that
their food tastes better.
Yeah, they're experiencing flavor for the first time. That's not with preservatives and additives and sugars and all these other things. It's just
a natural blend.
It's 75% salt. So it really is just flavorful salt that really improves your cooking with whole ingredients.
I love that you guys said to put it in scrambled eggs and avocado toast, because I haven't tried that. Like I've just used it in veggies and things. So I need to try that. That's a great idea.
We have some more products coming too, because a lot of people have asked for like a sweet baking salt. So we're working on that. But the diversity of the product, it also works. Thanksgiving's around the corner. So brining your turkey. So it makes a great brine spice. Our salt does. So and we have some tips on our website at amniccoli.com. We try our best to update recipes on there, but there's recipes there. You can shop both our book and our salt there, but our brine recipe will be on social and on our website.
I also love that you guys saw a void in the market and was like, we're going to fix this. We're going to make the good salt with the herbs in it. So I love that. Any last tips for my listeners that you want to share about cooking healthy, cooking with the family, budgeting, anything like that?
Simplify your life. I feel like it's probably one of the things that we try to do to pull the stress out of it and have fun. Nothing has to be that serious. Being in the kitchen doesn't have to be a stressful thing if you keep it simple.
Oh, I love that.
I think mine, I kind of stole from listening to you speak the first time, which is don't be overwhelmed. Like you're not going to do this overnight. If you take those little steps that fit in your budget, you will see a difference. And if I'm being honest, when we first met you, like there's a glow about you, or like you can tell that you're healthy. Like you are like, there's a health aspect, and it's not even before I knew who you were, like your skin, the way you keep yourself. And that all is based on the ingredients you're putting in your body, on your body. And it doesn't happen overnight. So just choose one thing, fix that, then move on to the next. And you will see results almost immediately, because you don't realize how much crap is in the food we're eating.
That is true.
Try to eat at home more.
That is true. And you know what? People say to me all the time, like, sometimes I'm just in a hurry and I need to eat out. And I'm like, no, just make yourself like tuna fish if you're that, or scrambled eggs or a grilled cheese sandwich or something. That's better than the seed oils and all of the stuff you're going to get in the fast food.
Yeah.
So I love that advice of just keeping it simple and not getting overwhelmed. So thank you so much for sharing that. Tell my listeners where they can find you guys.
So both of us are on social. Our names, Aubrey Niccoli, Marco Niccoli, and our salt is AM.
.Niccoli.salt. So AM Niccoli Salt. And then at our website, you can purchase our book and our salt. So that is amniccoli.com. And obviously the AM is for Aubrey and Marco, but we also are a blended family. So we both had kids going into the marriage. And so we used to cook and spend a lot of time together
in the AM.
In the early mornings. And so I tell people we fell in love in the AM. So
that's awesome.
Where our brand story came from.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, so I always end my podcast with asking my listeners what they have found to be the best ingredient in life. And I'm so curious to hear what you guys are going to say.
I guess I'll start maybe. So a key ingredient to life for us, well, anytime that we're creating a plate of food, when we're cooking and creating, you're trying to create that perfect bite. And in order to do that, you have to create balance on the plate. So that's balancing your flavors, your textures, visual, the smell. And I think life is very much that way. It's balance. Like our key to life is finding that balance, which is very difficult. And like sometimes you don't do it, but when you do, it's magical. And I think, and on the plate, it's the same thing. When you find that balance, it is magic. It makes you so happy, like you could cry. Like it's that good. So I think that in life, we really, really try to find that.
I love that. And I love that analogy. That is great.
I double down. Balance is 100%. And outside the kitchen, it is balancing our kids' schedules. And our business is very tough. And we spend a lot of time away from our kids. And so we try to balance that by when we are home, focusing on them and
it's them only.
Giving them the attention that they need. Because we know that because of what we do, we are going to be gone.
And it's okay. It's okay if you fail. It's okay if like things don't go your way at that time. But as long as you keep trying, like over and over and over again, and that's what we definitely try to. And we choose happiness, trying to be happy and finding that balance within our home and in our workplace. Because obviously we work together. We're also a family and have kids. So I think finding the work balance and our home balance is what is our key.
And it is magical if you can find it. And that is a hard goal for everybody to try to find balance because work overtakes things or kids overtakes things. So you're right. Balance is an important ingredient in life. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, you guys, for being on my show today. I loved learning little tidbits from you. And again, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
You're amazing. We love following everything you do. So thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.